The Henschel HS126 was a German two-seat reconnaissance and observation aircraft which featured a Parasol wing, giving it excellent short takeoff and slow speed handling characteristics. Join me in this video as I build and review the Zvezda Art of Tactics kit of this Second World War observation plane. Hello and welcome to Model Minutes. In this video I build and review the Zvezda Art of Tactics 1 to 144th scale Henschel HS126B plastic model kit. Before we start the kit, as always, remember that adult supervision may be required due to the use of sharp tools and toxic paints and chemicals. The kit comes contained within a small box with some rather exciting box art. The rear of the box features images of the assembled but unpainted kit, along with some sort of token. If you know what this is, let me know in the comments below, as I couldn't read the language or find out online. Upon opening the box, there are quite a few items. The first thing I look at is the sprue containing the display stand. This is moulded in hard black plastic. Next, the playing card for the Art of Tactics tabletop strategy game. This features all of the specifications for the Henschel in the game, such as the number of tiles it can move and its health, amongst other things. The decals are contained within a plastic bag, and along with the standard German crosses for the wings and tails, there are extra numbers so that you can have an entire squadron of these models. You might be able to notice that this sheet of decals has an error on the numbers 8 and 9. It appears as though there is a smudge, but fortunately I don't have to use those numbers, but I would be disappointed if those were the numbers I needed. Also, in the bag with the decals is the clear cockpit canopy. The instructions come on an A5 leaflet, which is printed on both sides. One side has information regarding the Art of Tactics game, and the other has step-by-step pictures indicating the sequence of construction. Fortunately, these instructions are multilingual and are clear to follow. What I did notice, however, despite there being instructions on where to place the decals, there aren't any on how to paint the model, or an appropriate paint scheme. When I come to paint the model later, I'll use the box art, Google searches, and an element of modeller's license in order to finish the kit. Finally, all the parts of the aircraft are contained within two grey plastic sprues. The model is designed to be assembled without any glue, and the parts are moulded to a good quality. I did notice, however, that there is not a great deal of detail, which is understandable in this small scale, particularly as these are intended to be a wargaming avatar, but as a scale model I feel as though they could have put more detail on, as is achieved by other manufacturers in this scale. I started constructing the kit by cutting the fuselage halves from the sprue and cleaned up any burrs with a nail file. I used polycement throughout the construction of this kit quite liberally, as it's not really required due to the design of the model. I then repeated the process for installing the Parasol wing struts. These are quite small and fiddly, so tweezers might be handy here. Next, the elevators were removed from the sprue and added to the model. Following this, the landing gear was added. This part required a little more cleaning up with a nail file prior to installation. The outer wing struts were then cemented into place on the wings, which was then followed by the propeller. I won't glue this on yet, as I'll paint it first to make it easier. The display base is easy to assemble as it consists of two parts. They slot together and form a solid base, which is quite handy for moving the model around if you intend to use it in the Art of Tactics game. Next, I started painting the underside of the model with Humbrol 65 Duck Egg Blue enamel paint. This paint was thinned with white spirit at a ratio of about 2 parts paint to 1 part thinner, in order to avoid leaving brushstrokes and to help speed up drying times. The top Parasol wing has been left off of the model in order to make painting it easier. I then painted the propeller Humbrol Matte Black Acrylic No. 33. I didn't thin this paint as I only required a small amount. The propeller spinner was then painted Humbrol 174 Signal Red Satin Acrylic. This again was not thinned as only a tiny amount was needed. I'll remove the propeller at this point in order to aid painting the engine. The engine was given a coat of Humbrol 53 metallic grey acrylic, as was the rear of the propeller spinner to hide where it attaches to the model. I moved on to paint the top surface of the wing and fuselage with Humbrol 30 dark green acrylic. I thinned this paint with water using the same ratio as the enamel paint in order to avoid the brush strokes. Getting the lines right between the different colours can be difficult. I did all mine by hand, but you could use masking tape to help you. I then used Humbrol 80 grass green enamel to finish off the camouflage pattern. I chose these colours based on the painting on the box and my internet research. The canopy was lined with Humbrol 30 matte green, and because of the small size of the part, I decided to use a homemade tool from a piece of sprue. The sprue has been melted over a candle and has a fine point. It was left over from when I stretched the sprue to make wires for a previous model. It acts as a very fine paintbrush, but doesn't hold much paint. Patience has to be used at this point in order to get the paint in the right place. The landing gear was painted using Humbrol 33 matte black acrylic. A fine paintbrush was used in order to correctly place it on the moulded tyres on the landing gear. The Parasol wing was then cemented to the fuselage struts when all the paint had dried. This was a difficult step, and care had to be taken to avoid damaging the struts as you install the wing. I then painted the model with Humbrol 135 satin varnish. Again, this was thinned with white spirit in order to help it flow and prevent brush strokes. This varnish will be used as a base for the decals and help prevent them from appearing silvery on the model. The decals were then cut from the sheet and soaked in warm water to release them from the backing paper. Humbrol decal fix was applied to the model and the decal was then slid onto the model in the correct position. The decal fix helps soften the transfers into the surface of the model and make them appear as though they were painted on. You might notice that some of the decals, particularly the crosses, don't appear to have been printed correctly. The black crosses don't seem to align with the white backing quite right. This isn't so noticeable from a distance, but can be distracting close up. If I'd noticed this earlier, I could have cut the decals to make them look better, or painted the crosses on using white and black paint, and some creative stenciling with masking tape. When the decals had dried, a final coat of paint was applied over the top to help seal them and provide a uniform finish. I used Humbrol matte varnish number 35. This enamel paint was again thinned using white spirit. Normally I use a black wash to highlight the panel lines, but as there were so few on this model, I decided to instead try using a black fine tip marker pen. I applied the pen on the panel lines where the ailerons, elevator and rudder were, but fortunately it was water soluble, so could be removed if I made a mistake. Finally, I cemented the propeller onto the model, then added the cockpit canopy. The canopy should be installed before the Parasol wing, and as a result I had to remove one of the locating pins in order to get it to fit correctly. The canopy was glued in position using a general purpose glue which helps prevent the plastic from appearing foggy. I realised that the box artwork had some yellow identification panels on the wings, fuselage and nose of the aircraft, and felt I wanted to add these as it made the aircraft look more interesting. I used Humbrol pale yellow number 81 acrylic for this job. Again, I painted the panels freehand, but masking tape could be used to make it easier. Whilst you watch me finish this step, I'll tell you a little about the actual Henschel HS126. Entering service with the Luftwaffe in 1938, the HS126 had a crew of a pilot and an observer. The pilot could use a single 7.92 MG17 machine gun in the nose, and the observer had a 7.92mm MG15 on a swivelling mount at the rear for defence. Additionally, the aircraft could be fitted with bombs for ground attack. Despite having excellent short takeoff and slow flying speeds, the aircraft was removed from frontline service in 1942, having been superseded by more advanced and capable aircraft. And here's the finished model. I've included a pound coin in some of the photographs to give an indication of the small size of this model. I found it to be simple and fun to build, easily achieving good results in a single afternoon of building. Naturally, drying times of the paints may mean that this kit is built over a number of days. I like the box artwork and the inclusion of additional decals. Although I don't really know what the Art of Tactics game is, it looks interesting from the included information and playing card. Where the kit is let down is in the lack of fine detail and the poorly printed decals. Perhaps the decal problem was just in my version of the kit, maybe others in the range don't have the same problem. The kit retails for about £4 in the United Kingdom, which I think is a reasonable price. I'd recommend this kit to a beginner due to its easy clip together construction, but lack of painting instructions can make it a bit daunting. I do expect, however, that many who use these for the game don't paint them. Instead, they just apply the decals. So, in conclusion, this is a great little kit which is well designed and easy to assemble, but was let down by the decals in my sample and the lack of painting instructions. I'm pleased with the overall results I've achieved, and I think that if I were to build another one, it would look pretty good as part of a micro diorama. As always, let me know what you think of my build, techniques and finished model in the comments below. I'm also keen to hear your suggestions as to other kits that you'd like to see me build on my channel, so feel free to post that too. All that's left to say is thanks for watching this video, and don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe in order to see more content and help support the channel, and feel free to share this video with your family and friends, and you can connect with me on social media. I'm on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. See you all again next time.